Greetings all, thedvsmonkey here. Over the years, I've made fairly obvious shifts in what I use. It first, of course, started out with full-size desktop computers. When I was in the military, I got my first desktop computer. It was the greatest thing ever. The one thing I remember about it that sort of epitomizes how awful they were back then was the start of the internet. And I remember I got Netscape Navigator in a box for Christmas. And I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to do with it. I mean, there weren't all kinds of browsers and all that stuff. There basically was like the Internet Explorer or Netscape Navigator. But when I first got it all hooked up and I was able to connect to the internet with my dial-up modem, which was, I believe, a 3600 baud, if you even know what that means. Old days means you had to dial up, and the baud rate was how fast of a connection you had. Well, the connection was so pathetic that the first thing I did to test it out was I went to the MTV site and I downloaded a 15-second clip of Beavis and Butthead. It took 35 minutes, okay? Once I got out of the military, I started taking a huge interest in computing, and I started to build my own stuff. So I remember going to a computer show in Pittsburgh, and I bought each individual piece. Now, I had done that before when I was in the military, and I had some other guy that really knew what he was doing go with me, and he just ran around and started picking stuff, and he put it together. So I didn't know what was going on. But this show in Pittsburgh was the first time I bought my own stuff after researching it and putting it all together, and I made a pretty kick-ass system, and I used to game on it. That was my big thing. Back then, I played Unreal, mostly, Half-Life, and I really got into, I believe it was Alien vs. Predator. And I used to play it strictly for stress relief, and I would always be a predator, and my main reason for playing the game was finding a human and shooting it in the head with an arrow. And if you tacked the head to a tree, then the predator would laugh. And that was just endlessly amusing to me. Okay, so now I'm using a built desktop computer. And I remember having it in the kitchen at my mother-in-law's place, and I climbed underneath the house and ran a Cat5 cable underneath the house so that I could connect it to the jack in the living room and that I wasn't having cable all over the place. Okay, now I'm like, that's awful. And at the time, laptops weren't $5,000. I mean, they weren't these ridiculous, gigantic things. And I remember I went on the Best Buy site and I configured my first laptop. And I remember going on Black Friday to pick it up, and there were like 150,000 people outside in a field across the street from the freaking the Best Buy. And that's when I went in to order it, because I had configured it beforehand, but then I had to go in and actually pay for it. And I remember, you know, like it was almost like the start of a marathon, and the doors open and they literally bang, they shot something off, and these thousands of people rushed the doors. And I remember being in line, and it wrapped all the way around the perimeter of the inside of the store twice, just so that I could get up to line to order this stupid thing. But that was the start of it all, because I got my first laptop, the first of many laptops. So I started using laptops for everything, and I thought, why would I even want a desktop? Why would anybody want a desktop when you can have this ability? Of course, they weren't as powerful back then as their desktop brothers, but I didn't care because I could take it anywhere. So I went through several laptops, bigger ones, smaller ones, gigantic gaming ones, on and on and on. Well, the last laptop that I bought was a MacBook Pro for myself, and I loved it. And it wasn't configured with a lot of high RAM and big hard drives and all that kind of stuff because it was too freaking expensive. And my wife actually really dug it, and her laptop started shit in the bed, so ended up buying her the exact same computer and got that for her. She's perfectly happy with that, and that's all she uses, and she sits down on the couch and she just uses her MacBook Pro. Well, I then started moving into tablets, and now I hardly ever touch my MacBook Pro. I mean, it sits down in the living room, and every once in a while I'll pull it up. But for the most part, I stick almost strictly to tablets now for anything other than like work or heavy computing. So, what was it, like 2 years ago? Basically, after I moved in here, I had built another like amazing gaming desktop before we moved to Virginia Beach, and I loved it for a few years, and you know, the romance was over, and I was pretty much done with it. And I thought, you know what? I've got an iPhone, I've got iPads, I've got a MacBook. Why don't I just move in to Apple? I mean, I might as well just embrace the fanboy and get this iMac. So I started taking classes at the Apple store, and I was there all day, every day for like 3 weeks, taking all these courses, learning how to use all this equipment. And I was talking to the one guy that I became friends with, and he sort of told me, dude, don't buy a brand new iMac, go to the refurb section online, and I mean, they have to be certified, they have to be gone over, and some of them are literally brand new. I mean, they've just been opened, taken home, and brought back, and you know, open box, but they're in perfect condition. So that's what I did. I ended up buying a 27-inch iMac, you know, the 5K version. You know, he said just get it for the, you know, the smallest amount of RAM and all that kind of stuff. And then he gave me a website to go to, and he goes, now you can buy the RAM there for like 1/10 the price, and then you can load it up. And that's exactly what I did. So I got this amazing iMac, and I bought the RAM from a site online, and I got it, you know, the next day and put it in myself. And that's the computer that I've been using for just about everything. Then I actually bought another 27-inch 4K monitor. So I have the two monitors, you know, basically two gigantic monitors, and that's what I'm used to using now. I can't, you know, like I don't want to use one screen. That's for plebes. That's when I started to realize that you can basically connect them all through the cloud. And if I'm doing something on the iMac, well, I can stop and then I can go down and pick it up on the MacBook, or I can be doing something on my iPad in one room and pick it up on another iPad in another room, or on my phone or whatever. And we also found out that when I would text my wife, because you were logged into iMessage, she was able to get the text on her computer, on her laptop, and answer me. And it changed everything, because then we were able to actually, you know, look at files, pictures, movies, and all that kind of stuff, instead of on your phone and have it on your computer, and then you didn't have to get up and you didn't have to have your phone right there. So we got all this stuff, and it was all connected. And then I went completely out of my mind, and I bought a Samsung phone as my main phone. I got rid of my iPhone. I think it was a 10X, 10S, whatever, and it bricked, and it pissed me off. So I was like, Apple, and I went and I bought a Samsung S10 Plus. It was great until it wasn't, until I started realizing everything that I gave up by stepping outside of the Apple ecosystem, because I had everything else in that system. No more iMessage, no more picking shit up on this device or that device. The iMessage alone was the killer, because all these, you know, the few people that I actually communicate with all have iPhones, and they were sending me shit, and you know, I couldn't do the same things. Okay, so that sucked. To make a long story long, I ended up just getting rid of the Samsung, and I bought an iPhone 11 Pro Max and got back into the system. Now, in the meantime, I've gone through several tablets, tons, and I really enjoy them. In fact, I would almost exclusively use tablets for everything if I could. But I can't. Let's be realistic. They are not desktop replacements. There are certain things that you just cannot do, especially if you're married to Apple. So let me go through all these. First, the oldest one, which is the 9.7 inch, I think. And I got this for work. This was provided for me by my company. Now, before that, I had one when I was on the first team, and I never used it. And, you know, they give you unlimited texting or unlimited data, and you can use it for anything. And I never used it. And I actually got in trouble for not using it. And I was told, you need to log some time on that thing or give it back. And I was like, okay, fine. So I started using it for a few things. And then I found that when I switched teams, they wanted it back. But at that point, I kind of started getting used to it. So they took it back, and I was like, okay, there's so many things that I can do to make my job so much easier that it's actually going to be worth it for me to just go out and get my own. But because I really need to be in a Windows system, because that's what all of our stuff was, I was like, okay, fine. So I went out and I bought a Surface. This one is a Surface Go. This is the second one I got. But it is perfect. And I could put all the Windows stuff on here. And, you know, I had the stylus, and I used to have to go into meetings, and I used to have people sign forms that I was there, and I did that, and I did it all with this. And I put it all up in the cloud, and I had all my stuff on here, and I could go in and present, and I could go through all the reporting, and I could do everything with this Surface. It was fantastic. I bought it, and not much longer after that, that's when my company provided us with iPads on the new team that I was on. I'm like, great, I invest all that money in the Surface, and now I get an iPad. Well, it didn't matter to me because I still love the iPad. I use it almost exclusively now for work, and it's a game changer. I hate to say that. I think the second time I've said I hate to say game changer, but it literally is a game changer, and I use that for everything for my job. It is fantastic. I do not like my company laptop. I only use it when I have to VPN into, you know, the company's VPN, whatever, to do things like timesheets and all that kind of stuff where you have to have a VPN. Otherwise, I'm using that iPad, and it's fantastic. Now, personally, I use my iPads every day, constantly, which leads me to this one. So this is the 10.5-inch iPad Pro, and I have it on like a shit keyboard thingy that I bought on Amazon that I don't use as a keyboard. I use it so that I have the clamshell ability, and it sits down here on my gut every night when I go to bed, because I lay in my bed and I watch YouTube videos. It never leaves my bedside table unless I'm using it right there, but it never goes out. I don't have it connected to my cellular plan or any of that shit. So it sits in there, and I internet with it, and I usually just watch YouTube videos on it, and that's it. At one point, I had I think that was the first iteration of the 12.9-inch iPad Pro, and I have since sold that to somebody because I bought the newest one. So I have the 12.9-inch iPad Pro. This is I think the 2018 version. It's not the 2020. I have my Apple Pencil and all that stuff. And the idea behind this is that's a picture I took in Virginia Beach. Isn't it gorgeous? I got this one because I had it in my head that this was what I was going to use to edit my videos when I'm on the road. I've said this before. I decided that I was going to take my cameras with me every time I go out on the road for my job, and I was going to film shit, and I was going to post it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do it with the iPad, and I watched videos to see how other people did it, and I bought other gear to make that happen and all that kind of stuff, and I've never done it once. I'm hoping to change that now once this whole lockdown is done and I go back on the road, because I'm used to posting a video every day now. But it's not going to happen when I'm on the road because I'm not going to have my iMac with me. But I will have this with me, so I have to figure out the best way to do this without having to have a billion files all over 18 different devices and having to take, you know, an extra bag with me because I've got to carry all the extra shit that I need to be able to do that. So for now, it ain't happening. Now, when I lost my mind and I left Apple and I bought that Samsung, I ended up pre-ordering and getting this Samsung Galaxy Tab S6 at the time, or it might even be right now, the newest one. And I got the little keyboard that came with it, and it also comes with the little pen, the S Pen, or whatever the hell they call it. And I had grand plans for that tablet and the phone. The idea was that they were going to sync together, and I could do the same shit that I did with my Apple stuff, and I was going to be able to do all these cool things. Come to find out, well, yeah, you can do that, but not if you're on Verizon. So everything that I thought that I was going to be able to do that other people can do, provided they're not in Verizon, I couldn't do because I was with Verizon. So instantly that was like the nail in the coffin for me having this Samsung stuff. So again, I sold the phone, the watch. I still have the tablet. It's been sitting there. I haven't touched it. And I probably should just sell it because I don't use it. Now, when I'm driving on the road, I actually have a laptop desk that has a big metal thing that bolts into the seat structure and all that shit. And I have a tablet mount. I changed out from a laptop mount to a tablet mount, and now when I go on the road, my company iPad gets put into there. and that's what I use when I'm looking at emails and watching videos when I'm driving, haha. Okay, other than the Surface now, that Surface Go and the Galaxy Tab, I use my iPads every day. Every one of them gets used constantly every day. In addition, I have 2 iPhones, one personal, one for work, and I use them every single day. And I have them all interlocked or connected to each other with the iMac and the MacBook Pro and all that shit. And it just, once I came back to the Apple ecosystem, it was like, and my wife was like, don't ever do that again, because it sucked. I'm an Apple fanboy. I have all Apple stuff, and I probably always will. I know I have an excessive amount of stuff. Have you come to find that is the case with everything? I am excessive. And that's it. That's all I got for you today. If you have any questions or comments, put them down below. Like, subscribe, all that shit. And remember, kids, forward and up.